Not a Great Whisperer podcast. This is your host, Katie Ray. I am joined with the lucky Christopher Ray, who is my, as one would say, other half. Hey, well, the last time we did a interview together was on Zoom. We never did Zoom? We never did the studio one. We never launched that episode. Yeah. Pretty cool. Welcome.
Thank you.
So this is like our first studio one instead of like a Zoom call. Yeah, because it was quarantine, remember?
Yep.
Parent expectations. Yeah, that was Zoom, right?
It was.
Was it? Yeah. So welcome. We were going to discuss some not so beautiful topics today, right? I thought it's important to bring it up so that people don't feel so much shame around the topics. Definitely not a kids episode. I think it's more adult episode, maybe couples episode, or just in general people episode. So I kind of told you like where I wanted to go with this episode, but of course, in a couple, sometimes one's more talkative than the other. Who do you think that is?
I think it's you.
Thank you. So that would be me. But I hope you get to talking today because we're going to kind of bring up infidelity, betrayal, addiction, not the sexiest of topics, and how we've helped each other and motivated each other so we can help others. Right? Okay. So I wanted to kind of discuss what is common in today's society and are not talked about enough. And one is like our culture and society norms of like relationships, like what we saw when we were younger, like gangster movies and things like that, like the mistresses and the wives, and like how that kind of impacted you.
How it impacted me?
Yeah, well, like as a young male, because that stuff was like, I mean, you weren't cool unless you were watching fucking Heat and Goodfellas and shit like that.
I think more of what shaped me. I mean, it's not. I think it's more of the society, right? I obviously, most people know I'm a stellar athlete.
Oh my God! Oh, athletics, yes, athlete.
But I just think it's
stellar athlete.
It's more of
oh yeah, in sports.
How that's portrayed in society, and not that it's an excuse, but obviously, right? If you're the best, if you're the prime, if you're the guy, you're supposed to have, you're supposed to get all the women. You're supposed to, it's just supposed to come easy, and there's not supposed to be,
any work.
You
don't have to be a good human.
No.
Yeah, it's just supposed to like happen. If you're successful, you're a good athlete, you have money, or you have just skills, or for you, talent. Mm-hmm. Okay, you're right. I've talked movies, but you're right in the sports out because I'm also an athlete. Most know. Okay, I feel you on that. But for men, like, what's a relationship look like for you? So I just think in general for men, like, what was it about a relationship? Because at the same time, you're like, what is it that, I mean, if you don't have like good examples to like look up to.
So that's, I mean, I think it's a misconception because I think I had a great example, right? My father, I would think is a great example of what a man should do and be. However, I chose, right, to look, I'm not going to say look elsewhere, but I just took that persona of what society told me was to, right, a man's supposed to have two. I don't know where I found this or took this, or grabbed this from, but it was more of, to me, it was you have your wife, girlfriend, whatnot. And it's okay if you have, other women on the side.
Ugh.
Not that obviously it's not right, but that's just what, for me growing up, I looked at and you see on the news and, hey, this athlete, this famous person, is caught cheating or whatnot. And there's really no ramifications. There's no anything bad, right? He's still making millions of dollars. He's still doing what he needs to do. He's still getting endorsements. You know what I mean? So, I mean, at the time when I was growing up, it was more of, to me, it was, hey, you have your wife, significant other, and then you, as long as you're still going home, as long as you're still there with them, you can do what you want when you're not with them, right?
Yeah, isn't that crazy to say now for the person you are today?
It is.
It's kind of like, what the fuck happened? But at the same time, I think, what do you think? I mean, shit. I mean, it's still happening every day for men, right?
Yeah.
I
I think I look at my addiction and my troubles, right? And I just think this goes to anything. If you're not willing to accept your wrongdoing and place blame on yourself and fix it, I mean, it's just going to be a revolving circle, right? I mean, I could easily blame society, blame whoever, influences, coaches that I had growing up that cheated, but all that would do is, for me, keep me in the same cycle that I was.
Yeah, because you're blaming everybody else for your actions. So for, on the other end, the significant other who was betrayed, I feel like the stereotype is always like, I did something. And like what people think right away, like in a couple, like if someone cheats or something. And I'm always like, man, that's fucked up. And so there was a lot of shame that like surrounded that. And I feel like I used to think like that when I'd hear of something.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
I'd be like, oh, well, what was he being a bitch? Or like...
that's the... I think that the first thing, right, I even got those questions of, hey, how's your guys' marriage? What's going on? And it's obviously, I went to, therapy. I went to, went to classes, things like that. And it's, the addiction comes in all shapes, forms, size, right? There was straight men, gay men, right? There were Black, Hispanic, white, old, young,
Yeah.
middle-aged, all types and variations. And yeah, there are some, right? There are some cases where someone feels neglected and they cheat, right? But that's not all the cases, right? For me, and there was no, right? We were happily married. And there's never a time that I didn't want to be married with you. There was never a time that I felt that I was like, hey, this is just not going well, so I'm going to cheat. I just cheated because that's what I thought was acceptable in society.
Yeah, no, I feel you. And a lot of people won't be where we are today, but I think it's important for people to know, like, we didn't have a path. You were recovering, and you wanted to be a good dad. So I like put my heartbreak aside to allow you to recover, because at the end of the day, you're still a dad and a good one. So you put that at the forefront, and we just kind of made it happen. And then we just kind of stayed together.
Well, I always knew, regardless, I was always be a good father.
Oh yeah.
But I really wanted, and I didn't think it would happen, was like for us to stay together, and obviously when everything happened and when you found out about everything, I knew that was a slim to no chance. However, I give you, you're probably one of the strongest women I know. Just to stick around with me with the shame and everything that, came about, staying with me and everything like that, is pretty great, and I think, I think the easiest thing would have been for us to separate.
Say fuck you.
Yeah. No, and rightfully so. And I've always told you, like, even tomorrow, right? I'm not going to have any ill will if you're just like, hey, I can't do this anymore. And it's understandable, and right. But, when it first happened, everything to me, it's the easy way, and it's not that it's the wrong way. It's just, that would have been the easiest thing, just to, hey, we're done, so on and so forth. Right. Even for me and my recovery, right. It'd be easier for me by myself than to stick with you when I put all this pain and and you don't trust me at first and everything, and just the obstacles we went through with everything, and and it's just because, and the main thing I tell, I whoever wants to talk to me or you, and it's like, hey, just because we're together doesn't mean that someone who's going through a similar situation needs to be together.
Oh, exactly. 100%.
Right. It goes in this, whether it's female, male, the person who's going through whatever they're going through has to want to change.
Yeah.
Has to understand that the person that you betrayed or whatnot is they're gonna go through things, right? And like I told you when we first started, there's not anything that you would do to make me go back to what I was doing. And if I did, it was on me, right? Meaning, right, hey, just because we get in a fight, right? I'm not going to go out and cheat on you. And if I did, right, the responsibility is on me.
Yes.
Right? It's not on you because we got in a fight that, you don't need to be worried about, hey, because, I went through your phone or I did this or I did that I would, go off the deep end, and here's the thing, right? I can, but it's not on the person. It's not on you.
No, it's on you. And you even said once, I like this person I am now. Like, you just feel better, right?
Yeah.
It takes a lot of work, though. I don't think
it's not that it's funny, but I knew I had issues, when I've always said this, when Tiger Woods, came out and his whole thing, I was kind of looking at him like everything that's coming out. I was like, man, that's me, and I actually went almost a month or two where I was looking for therapists and stuff. And obviously when you're in secrecy, right, it's I'm not going to say it's hard. You just think it's hard because it's, how am I going to go and seek help when, I don't even know if it's a thing, right? It's only one person. But the minute, Tiger Woods came out, I was just like, it was almost like I was looking at myself, and everything that came out about him, and to see where he's at today is, to me is good. One thing I do, I wish he spoke more about,
what he went through
and his struggles and everything like that.
But there's so much shame.
But there is a lot of shame. We glorify on one end, people that get all the women and, do this and that, but then, when society chooses to blackball you, then they do, And there's no really rhyme or reason on why one topic is right and one topic is wrong, except that, the majority of society says it is.
Mm-hmm. No, and I do think that's important. And I do wish more people spoke up about it and gave more glorifying to good people that are actually making a change and helping other people. But, it does happen. And it's kind of crazy what we're 3 years, right? 3 years, where we've come. Like, it was just such a shitty time. It's still shitty to think about, but it when I would tell the story, it was really hard to share because I was just like still in it. And a lot of the shame falls on me and the people's judgment and stuff. But then you just stop thinking. But I do think that time helped me get myself back to who I was and my opinionated, strong self. But I do think it made us better parents. And I think it's going to readjust your style. You have 2 daughters and 1 boy, 1 son. And I think it's not that our parents did anything wrong, but I think our communication and letting it kind of crushing stereotypes for them to let them just be who they are is helpful.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the number one thing is, right, it's I don't place blame on anyone but myself, right? I had multiple opportunities to not do what I did. You know what I mean? I chose to do that. Um, you know, but what I can do is, help my son. And right, and here's the thing, right? My parents were great parents, right? They guided me, I think, phenomenally, but I chose my route, right? So the only thing we can do as parents is teach and talk to our kids, show them what right and wrong is, and go from there. They're gonna, just like I did, just like you did, we're gonna take our paths as we, as they get older. And what we can, all we can do is be there for them. Hopefully they make the right choices. And if not, we'll have to do what we have to do.
I guess that's one of my fears too, though. Will Smith and Kevin Hart just had like a red table talk, and Kevin Hart said the hardest conversation he has to have is with, I think his daughter's 16, but like the man he was to the man he is. And he said that like, that kind of also like changes his everyday, like what he works on for himself. And I think that is hard for me too. As a strong woman, like I still question like staying, was that the right decision? Like, am I showing my daughters or my son the value of themselves? Like, so it's like a kind of like a mind fuck. But that really hit me when they said that to each other, because I'm like, you're right. Like, how do we explain this to the point where they understand the lesson that we learned? It's hard.
It is hard. And obviously I don't know what you went through, but to me, it's right. Not that I judge people, but it's like, right. Obviously people who know me, know the change, know, who I've become. And obviously you know that.
Mm-hmm.
And if I would call you a fool if I continued to do what I was doing and you stayed with me, and that's where, and it's not that it's not that I, judging people, but it's right. Hey, so-and-so has, done this or that the third, fourth time, and that's where I look at it and say, that's probably not a situation you want to be in.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And not that I won't make mistakes, not that I haven't made mistakes, but I'm committed into my change. You know what I mean? You are always, you've always been there for me, and the fact that, I mean, you stay here, it's because you see the work that I'm putting in, you know what I mean? And obviously I know as strong as you are, it's not a, a threat or anything like that, but I understand that if I'm not growing, if I'm not being better, you're not going to be here.
True. Did you like that pause we did right there? So I was originally we're going to go over like how every day you kind of have to deal with things and what the work you put in. But I was going to name this episode, because it's going to be the 99th episode. It's going to be for 100. I was going to name it 99 Problems What a Bitch Ain't One. Don't you think it's a good one?
Pretty good.
Thank you so much. I was thinking of that while you're talking.
You gotta ask Jay-Z if you're allowed to.
You're right. So I wanted to, I feel like we're in a good place. And once you kind of go into a spot where you just don't care what other people think and you know what you're doing, it's like the fake social media feeds. And it's like, I know what we do every day. I know the work we put in. I know the struggle I have just with betrayal and things like that. Well, we are very much more, our levels of communication so much higher. We're not perfect, but we try. And I do think every marriage, commitment, friendship, anything you're in, like, it takes work. And I think people sometimes stop doing the work.
So the way I look at it is, we're all human. We all have whatever, like, there's no one on this earth who's perfect. Right. And I think it's just, what one person may think is weird is not to another person. You know what I mean? So yeah, what I did is wrong. obviously. And some people might be disgusted about it, but right. I mean, me and you, we go to the park and we'll see a mom or dad on their phone, not even looking at their kids, and we're just like, "What the fuck is that?"
Yeah, so
Like,
we were judging too.
You know, like, it's like
you could judge me, but
are you kidding me, bro? You know what I mean? And it's just like, you know, who decides? You're the one who decides what's right and what's wrong, and what you put up with, what you don't. You know what I mean? You know, the person who's stuck on his phone and games all day, you know what I mean, doesn't pay attention to their kids or significant other, whatever, right? He may have never cheated in his life and may look at me as a scumbag, right? I'm looking at this guy like, dude, you don't get off the fucking couch. Like, are you kidding me? You know, so I just think it's...
But if you're listening to my podcast, thank you.
But I'm just saying, you know, it's we all put, you know, whatever we think is right and wrong, in our perspectives. You know what I mean?
And I also think it's who we surround ourselves with. Yeah.
You know, and I think, you know, at the end of the day, if
we don't hide our story from our friends, do you know what I mean? Like,
what you're trying to do is right, and you're trying to be good. I mean, that's what I feel like is what counts. You know,
it does. You have good character, right? You're a good human. What do you? What's the work you do every day? I know prayer is a big thing for you, but what's your little, like, what do you do every day? Because temptation's everywhere for everything, right?
I mean, so there's really is, I mean, obviously you and the kids keep me grounded, but besides that, I mean, the one thing is prayer and God, you know, as cliche as, you know, everyone says, you know, and everything. But here's the thing, right? I mean, it was fun. It's just the way things work out, you know. Right, one of my best friends, you know, Brandon. You know, me and this guy, you know, we went to college. You know who he was, right? I know who he was, and right, I was still being what we were, and he wasn't. Right, he was, you know, he found God, he found Jesus, and you know, he turned himself around. And even you, right, when he called me and said he was getting married, right? Me and you were both shocked.
Yeah, you're right.
and he was okay. And to me, I was just like, oh, well, yeah. He's, you know, like, honestly, like, oh, he's just like me. You know, he's gonna get married. He's gonna do it. You know. And I met, you know, we talked to him. We saw him. And I was just like, oh my God, this is like
night and day.
Night and day. You know. And it was funny because I was doing what I was doing, and I knew what I was doing was wrong. You know. But I could never tell him that because I knew in what place and what space he was at. But, you know, once everything did come to light, right, he was the first person I talked to, you know, and I knew what I needed to do, you know. He just reaffirmed it, and it's, you know, as cliche as it is, you know, and like I said, I really don't care what people think, but I mean, at the end of the day, there's only so much that, you know, my kids can do, you can do, friends can do. You know, whenever I'm in a situation and, you know, and I feel like it's, you know, everything's closing in and I have no way out, you know, I sit there, pray, and just seems like everything works out, you know. And that's, you know, to me, that's the one thing that has really changed, you know. That's the one thing, you know, and going to classes and seeing, you know, all forms of addiction and you know, and people who really struggle. I would say one of the main things is, you know, the ones who really struggle have you know, haven't found whoever their higher power is. Because here's the thing, man, with addiction, there's only so much a human can do. I mean, I feel like whatever is, I don't know if my higher power is the right one, but to find you need to find something and believe in that. And like I said, that to me is what, you know, has really helped, you know, when all else fails.
I love that. And I like how you say anyone's higher power, because you're not just sticking to one religion. It's really all higher powers.
I mean, here's the thing. I'm not Jesus.
You are not Jesus.
I'm not Jesus. I'm not Jesus.
For English, Jesus. You're right.
I mean, the way I think of it is, I don't know. I choose to believe what I believe. But
No, you should allow people to believe what they believe.
I would think that if someone is a good person and does the majority of right, when their time is up, they'll be rewarded.
Yeah.
You know?
Be good. And love those who are a little broken, because we all are. So I love that. Did you have so much fun talking about? Do you have any questions for me?
No.
I think you nailed
Absolutely
it.
not.
I
Absolutely
think
not.
you opened up a lot of conversation. I think my main goal here was to have not a sexy conversation with two very sexy people, but to also open it up to people to not feel shame. I think that's something I struggle with all the time when I want to tell people our story. It's just like, oh, they're going to look at me when I know I was a good significant other. But we are great. I think we are just at a great place, not without work, not without effort, not without a little struggles. But I think where you've come is a very good example for people, especially stellar athletes, to know where they can be today.
I was an elite athlete.
So you can find Chris on my page because he has no social media at Not a Great Whisperer podcast. You know, he's the magic behind the scenes. At The Real K-Ray, we're at BKN Creative Studios in Ybor, katyray.com. You have C-Ray and K-Ray here today. And we just want to send the world a lot of love and no shame. Like, live your life, live your story. We're here today to help those people out, right?
Yeah.
Thanks for joining.